On Wednesday, we discussed introductions. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the conclusion for your essay on Friday, and then we can talk more about this as the year continues. So just like your introduction was an inverted pyramid that flowed broad to narrow, your conclusion is going to lead your reader out of the paper, flowing narrow to broad. So you'll begin with a restatement of your thesis statement, but please do not use the exact wording. Just use the general idea to say, this is what I talked about in my paper. Then your sentences will become more and more broad until you leave your reader with a final thought-provoking moment. Sometimes that's in the form of a question, though I think that sometimes students use that as a cop-out, so please use questions sparingly. Only if it's a really finely worded, thought-provoking question, use it. Otherwise, use some kind of statement that you want to leave the reader thinking about. It needs to, again, be at least 5 sentences. Just like we did an example in class for the introduction about the loss of innocence, let's use that example to talk about how we might formulate a conclusion. So if we were restating our thesis statement in the example that we used in class, we might say something along the lines of, Holden attempts to protect Phoebe to preserve her innocence. Then to get more broad, and it doesn't have to be significantly broader, but it does talk about Phoebe, shifts the focus from Holden attempting to protect Phoebe to then Phoebe's reaction. Phoebe resists Holden's protection. Then we could say something about Salinger. If you know something about his other works, about Franny and Zoe and the relationship between the sister and brother in there, you could say something about his works in general. Otherwise, you could just say something along the lines of Salinger posing a bigger concern for the rest of humanity. After that, you might talk about how the time period that he wrote it in is the postmodern time period, and that his work is actually reflecting what is happening in the world around him. And then the final statement that you might leave your reader with as a thought-provoking statement would be basically the idea that preserving innocence is no longer possible. I know that's not a very cheerful way to end it, but it is something that would definitely leave the reader thinking. All right, happy writing!